Hi there. So we're going to do some practice from the AP exams with the Phillips curve. So let's take a look here. The U.S. economy is in long-run equilibrium. We've actually looked at this problem before, but it's just kind of a quick review. And it says that the Fed decides to target the inflation rate. They sell bonds in order to deal with this relatively high expected inflation rate. And then it says, assume the target inflation is now 3%. What will happen to each of the following as the economy approaches a new long-run equilibrium? The short and Phillips curve explain, natural rate of unemployment explain. So what we have to kind of remember from this problem before, and it might be like take a moment and go back and like look at the previous one where we did this problem already. They sold bonds right here, right? And that caused the interest rate to go up, and it caused aggregate demand to decrease, right? So that's what changed in this economy. And then they succeeded in that, and they got the inflation rate under control a little bit. So as they're getting to that point, it's basically saying like, what will happen to each of the following as the economy approaches this new long run point with lower aggregate demand? And so the short run Phillips curve, and this is maybe easier if we actually just draw like two graphs here to show what this looks like. So imagine basically we had a situation where aggregate demand was really high before, and then the Fed pushed it down, right? The Fed did that, and we went from point A to point B. And so we pushed down aggregate demand in that sense. When we pushed it down like that, it's going to have the effect of keeping the SRPC the same, because remember, aggregate demand doesn't shift the SRPC, it just causes a movement along it. So inflation percent, unemployment percent. And if we're kind of going down along there, then in fact, we're going to go from like point A to point B on there. It's that mirror movement, but because it's an aggregate demand shift over here, it's going to cause a slide along the curve over here. So we'd say no change to the curve, right? Slide downward is the easier way to say that, right? Slide downward, that's the easiest thing. The natural rate of unemployment, right, is the LRPC, that's the NRU, and that doesn't change, right? The current level may have changed, the current level of unemployment, but the natural rate had no change. Because again, we aren't changing the fundamental like level of structural and frictional in the economy. The LRPC doesn't move around on us. So that's kind of nice, like as opposed to the kind of open question about growth and how does that work over here, we're not going to be moving around the LRPC. That's kind of nice. All right, now the next part says inflation and expected inflation are important determinants of economic activity. Draw correctly the graph of a short-run Phillips curve. Okay, so we have unemployment percent and inflation percent. And then it just actually asked for short run. So that's all we're going to put on there. Done. That's kind of nice. In 2013, they weren't terribly difficult. And then it says show the effect of an increase in the expected rate of inflation. So remember that you've got these IRAP shifters, and I stands for inflationary expectations. So we would say for B, if inflationary expectation, and I'm just going to write this out, if they go up, we would say therefore SRAS should decrease, because it's causing workers to go demand higher wages. So therefore, SRPC should increase because they move opposite each other. They do that. And so we are supposed to, what is the effect, right? Show the effect on this graph. So we just go SRPC2, and we say it shifts out like that. It just goes whoop like that. What's the effect of the increase of the expected inflation on the long run curve? Well, we didn't ask to draw that. But we kind of just talked about it up in this top problem, is that the long run doesn't change. There's no change to the long run because the natural rate of unemployment doesn't or didn't change, right? Didn't change in that problem. Like we don't usually talk about the natural rate changing all that much. And then it says C. Am I in the wrong? Yeah, I am. This is A. This is B. This is C. C1. Given the increase in the expected rate of inflation, will nominal interest rates on new loans increase, decrease, or remain unchanged? So this is an interesting one, right? Remember, if you're a lender and you're a borrower and you expect inflation to get higher, right? You expect it to rise, then you're just going to price that into the loan. So the way that you do that is you make the nominal interest rate higher to account for the higher inflation, and it keeps the real interest rate the same. So C would be an increase or C1 would be an increase, and then there would be no change for the real interest rate. And again, that's because it's expected, right? We all just go, okay, yeah, we expect the inflation to be a little higher, so we just make the nominal higher, real stays the same. All right, hopefully that helped you. See you next time.